Hi, this is Alan Luker, one of the Binion Stake Technology Specialists, and I want to talk today about the Spanish translation system and the wireless mics in the Binion Stake Center. Uh, we're going to focus mostly on the translation system, but I'm going to get ready to go to the next slide here. One of the main components of the wireless mics and the Spanish translation system is the Soundcraft mixer, and I want to go over that real quick. So you can see a traditional mixer will have a main out or a master out. Okay, as you can see, it is right there. And there you see the master outputs on the Soundcraft. Okay, then there'll be 8 inputs. This is a UI12 Soundcraft mixer, and there's a first input, and you can see how it coordinates there. And so you can see that the first 4 inputs are dedicated to the Spanish translation system. Now we'll look at the fifth input, which is channel 5, which becomes a lapel wireless mic, a black wireless mic. We'll talk about that in a little more detail later. Green wireless mic and an orange wireless mic right there. So those are all the inputs. So in the traditional mixer, we have the main outputs. This is the ones the outputs that go to the audience, and here you see our main output is actually connected to a mic input. It's sitting on the pulpit that goes under the rostrum from the output of the mixer here. But we want to exploit the aux output to split the function of the mixer into two, and so we can use it for the Spanish translation. Here are the Spanish translation aux outputs that we have. We're going to go into more detail here. Okay, so these are the aux output connections for the Spanish translation. Here we have aux1. You can see that goes in right there in the mixer. That's using an XLR type connector. There's aux2, which also uses an XLR connector. Now the next 2 auxes are actually headphone outputs, 1 and 2, but they can be redefined in the software of this mixer as aux outputs, and we use those. Okay, so we're going to go through a little detail what it is. So aux1, you see, is connected to the Williams sound transmitter. That's used by the Spanish for, and then there are receiver headsets tuned to the same frequency. So that's the wireless. K2 is connected to a cable that runs under the floor, down the tunnels, and over to the stake workroom from where this mixer resides in the back room behind the clerk's desk on the rostrum. And so it sends an output of the Spanish mix to a headphone amplifier. We're going to go into more detail here shortly. Okay, then 4, it goes to a DSP input, and we're going to talk about that more later. And then 3 is actually just goes to a headphone jack. It's sitting on the rostrum, and they'll listen to the Spanish mix, and we'll go into more detail of that later too. Okay, so we have a special caveat I need to point out here. When you go to access the aux sends and you want to adjust levels, you can be denied. And so you click on this little settings button here, and you navigate down to this section here where it has access. And what it'll be when you see it in denied is that these 4 will look just like this. They'll all look in the background. You just have to go click on and tap on them, whatever it takes to bring them all so they're showing highlighted just like this. And then you'll have access. Okay, so the goal of this presentation is for you to be able to understand this drawing. This is a Visio drawing that I use to maintain the documentation of what we've done here. I'm not going to go through all of this. Get this note here about what we're going to go through and review how all this in this note right here is accomplished. And we're going to look at pieces of this drawing at a piece, and hopefully after this video you'll understand this, be able to read this document and understand it. Okay, so the SHA4, the dual headphone amplifier, is a core piece to the Spanish translation. Of course, the other core piece is the actual Soundcraft mixer, which we've been talking about here. So I'm going to try to see if I can quickly get through this. So up here in the corner is a screenshot. We're going to show a better shot of this later, but this isn't the stake workroom. This is the actual main AV cabinet. The sound system and all the audio and video equipment is racked, okay? So there's a chapel out mix there that I've connected to, and it runs through what I call an isolation transformer. I'll talk more about that later. And this ends up going out of that cabinet, goes on a raceway on the wall in the stake workroom, and ends up here in the old satellite cabinet, which this is where this sits, okay? So it goes on channel A, and red is all English in this diagram. Blue is all Spanish. So let's trace all the red first. So we have a link out, and only channel A goes on the link out. There's a left and a right, and we're only using the left side on this. So that's a 3/4 inch, 1/4 inch phone jack. Which is the same thing as a guitar cord, and it goes to a 1/4 inch phone jack over here. It's a little, I think it's a little blue one. It's sitting there. It's about a foot long, something like that. And then out of that, we plug in some 1/4 inch to 3.5 adapters, and there's cabling that runs out to the high council room where we have the 2 headphones. And then we pick up another headphone out of this on channel B. Now you see these are all set on channel A, these switches here, but if you go in and look at it, we actually have all of these flipped down to B. So the first one on channel, and on the front, there are 3.5 inputs or outputs, and on the back, there are 1/4 inch on this. It's actually a pretty nice little distribution amp. I quite like it. But on the front, we take basically a male to female with these 30-foot cables. I got 3 of them, and later here we'll show you how we actually use those. But this suffice now. We have this here also going out to the high council room table, and that's so when one's translating, the other one could actually flip over and plug their headphone into the Spanish monitor and actually hear what the other one's translating. So in case they need to correct them or nudge them or have to have them adjust something, they can see that. So then we have another one on channel 2 that goes takes the Spanish mix out, and that goes into an mic input. It's going to be the Realtek mic in the high council room PC, and that's going to be used for broadcasting the Spanish mix out. Then we have channel 3. That's a monitor cable we have just sitting there right in the stake workroom in case we need to do some monitoring. And this is another little thing. I'm not going to discuss this now. It's kind of a cool little thing that we do, but we'll talk about that later. So now I'm going to talk about the inputs that we assign just to the aux output though. So the very first one that we have is the a Spanish stream. It's a mini PC. It sits in this rack at the top, and we take out we connect up and capture that right to. I don't think I showed that one, but you'll see this in another diagram later. So that goes into input 1, and that's when we actually want to pick up a stream. And all we need is just a Spanish mix. We don't need a video because the video is the same for English and Spanish. And this used to be, so we send this to the back room through the tunnel for there. Then channel 2 is when we need to have. There are times when we're during a conference that we're going to need to turn on what's going over the main sound system for the Spanish people, and that's going to be like hymns and music and other kind of stuff. Most of the people that are inside the building will just pull their headset back, but if you're listening remotely on a broadcast, then you're going to actually need to. So we pick up the old webcast audio out, and we run that through the tunnel and to this little headphone amplifier. It's sitting back in the rostrum, and then we have an output there. It's going there, and this also provides an English output if they decide to do translation on the rostrum. And then there's all that, and if we have the you're going to see where we have also a jack there where we can plug in and listen to the Spanish translation. That's output 3 here. Then we have the last aux out here. We have here going is going up to a DSP. This is so we can send the audio where we have where they used to listen to in some of the satellite rooms. You can hear the Spanish satellite audio. This is used so if we want to if they want to go sit in another room and have the headset and listen to the Spanish translation. Okay, so that's it for that one. Okay, so here we are looking at the view of the main sound and video system that General Communications put in back in 2019. And here I want to just go over some of the connections we have. So first one we have is the Chapel Mix Out. There you can see it is. It's actually going in. Now we want to follow that cable down. I'm showing the top end right there. And then if you can see the Chapel Mix Out, if we follow that, that's the bottom one right there. Okay, so we see there's a short cable there. It goes into the end of this isolation transformer. Then it comes out of this isolation transformer. I've got the short little XLR cable go with a 90 here, and then you see that connection here, and then that goes on out, goes out the side of the cabinet, and that will make its way back to the satellite cabinet. Okay, so the Chapel XLR connection at the other end of the was routed through the cable, and it ends up on channel A of the SH4 amp. It's in the satellite cabinet. So, and there, yeah, there you just saw it do the same thing. So now we have the Spanish streaming out right there. That comes out of the mic. There you, and we'll go follow the other end of that, and there you see it. So that right at the very top, I don't see it here, is that little mini. It's a little mini PC, and we come around the back of the little monitors in there, and there is a. We're going from male to female, and you'll see that if you follow that around, you'll see that go into here, which is this mic 2. So that's what that is, and there's actually a little Pink Street label on there you could probably look at too. Aux 4 comes into mic 1. These are the mics. They had a different idea that we were going to use this when we had the webcast, but they were going to want to use them for choir mics. But I repurposed them. They have them there, and so we're using them. Okay, so this 2.2 DSP used to go. I've got that going on the wrong plate. No, I don't. There it is, right there. I have to push that, advance that one more time. But there you see, we pulled this around the back. This used to go from the output, the second output of the satellite receiver, so we could do Spanish out. But since the satellite receiver went away, when we pulled out the receiver, I got this rerouted around the front so we could connect onto it. And there you see the other end of it, and that's sending. So that is sending the audio stream that is going out of the mini PC back to the mixer, and that'll allow us to be able to distribute that stream sound, whatever we need to do. That's going to be kind of the magic. So we send that back to the mixer so we can distribute that all the places that are attached to the mixer. Okay, so here's the old Chapel out. There was when we used to have the webcast device. I forget what the name of that is now. Anyway, it's the old box. It had an audio input there. We could take another out of the sound system and plug it into the webcast device so we could send out there. So since we don't have that anymore, I repurposed that, and we send that back over. That goes over a cable. Let's see if we can see it. You can kind of see where we're connected here. Anyway, it goes out the side, and it goes back to the satellite cabinet where we have another cable that runs all the way through the tunnel back to the rostrum in the back. So that's how we get an audio out that it's gonna go into a little fine distribution, another little headphone amplifier you'll see on another slide. Okay, let's look at physical connections now. Start diving into this aux1 Williams Sound, and there you see it plugged in the input one there, aux1, and you see how there's an isolation transformer with that. And here's the other side. You see it going into the Williams Sound transmitter, and you can see the labels that are on these. Okay, so now we'll cover aux2 out, its connection. You see it right there. There's the aux2, and the other end of the cable comes here, and it has a quarter inch. So it's XLR on that end, and this end is a quarter inch phone jack goes in there. And if you look at it real close, you'll see it goes to SHA. That says SHA, it used to be SH4, but there's, if you can see the label, you'll see it showing it's going into channel B of the headphone amplifier. It is back in the stake workroom. Okay, so we're going to look at the distribution amplifier, which is how we're using the Sterling SHA4. Okay, first we'll look at channel B, the Spanish audio. There you see it there. And you'll see, if you trace it back, you see that it's going to go through a couple of terminal blocks, one in the satellite cabinet, one in the back room, which you'll see a picture of shortly. And there's the aux out coming out of the mixer. Okay, so now these are some of the following things that are being distributed from the amplifier. First, the Spanish translation audio mix. Okay, there you see it there. So that is output 2, and that is be the Zoom mic for Spanish translation, and we'll show you a picture of that. Okay, then the audio cables for Spanish translation. You see that there. Then we have next are the 2 audio cables for the Spanish translators to listen to the English being spoken or whatever over the pulpit. Then there's a channel mix out from the sound system. Okay, and there you see that, and that's coming in. So that's channel A, and channel A there is the only one that can go out this link out here, and that feeds the fine. Okay, so now this is the aux out for a Spanish headphone it's on the rostrum. Now this has a direct connection straight from the mixer. So there's a Spanish side, and then we have another one that's for English, and we're going to pick up the sound coming from coming back over the channel mix. This came from the stake workroom, and we'll talk about that detail a little more later here. And so then finally we have the interpreter mic. This will be channel 4 on the Soundcraft mixer. But this is the location, and I'll go to the next slide and so you can see a little better what a location. Okay, so from a diagram here, it's kind of a slam dunk. You can see where it's at. We put a little metal pipe, 3/4 inch pipe, and screwed it down to the floor. It comes up a little handy box that you saw there in that diagram. This is where it's located. So if they do Spanish translation on the rostrum, they can either do it sitting here or sitting there. And then there's the mic jack. Okay, so now I want to talk about the location of the translation mic in the High Council room, which is where we use it most of the time. So it can keep from wearing out the cables. We were pulling them through the wall and then back again, and there's labels on them, and then plus there's just rough edges. So I finally got approval from the stake president to be able to mount this small storage box on the wall where we can store the cables. Here you can see a close up. Okay, so I'm just going to go over real quick how we set this up in the High Council room. So the obvious first thing we need to do is go down and unlatch the 2 latches on the storage box where all of the monitor cables are all rolled up. Now we also have to pick up the 25-foot, I think it's about 25-foot XLR cable. It's a standard microphone cable. There should be one sitting in the drawer there in the workroom, and we need to connect that. Drop the one that we have made up in the little bundle. There's 2 holes at the bottom of this. Drop the XLR connector down one, and the other 3 cables down the other, and then connect this connect the microphone cable. So you have a bundle of 4 cables. You're going to run across the floor. Then this hole, this grommet hole, is lined up so it'll be right on the edge. Um, you really don't need to tape up anything. There's like a solid post there, a big long post under the table. You can just bring those up. You want to run those across, and then you want to remove this grommet cable here. The thing is the easiest thing to do, and then get your cables all ran up, positioned. I would have the headset sitting about here, and then the microphone, and there's a little stand. They are sitting there, and the headsets that are all stored right here on the side of the high council room computer, like it runs Zoom or eMeets or whatever it is they use is what that computer's for. And then when you're got everything positioned, replace that grommet back there again. And then most importantly, make sure that you put um, the strip. I'll show you in the next slide the actual detail of the strip. We have one that's custom cut, and we should have labels on it. This stuff here, whenever they put a new sound system in the building now, the church has the contractor supply some of this type of material. I didn't know what it was for at first. I thought it was just extra stuff we use for covering cables on a run on the side of a hall, but this is what it's for. So it's got these little strips on each end, and so we have a custom cut piece for the Spanish translation. It'll be wrapped up. I should have some labels on it so you know what it is. It'll be just the right length to run from the wall over to the table, and you just put this over the 4 cables. Make sure there's no wraps in the cable, so it's as flat as can be. And you just put this, and these little sides will grip. The only building I think it doesn't have this is the 12th and 14th ward over on 27th West. But all the other buildings will have some of this in their inventory somewhere. Okay, so I want to talk about the digital signal processor. This is the core piece. This is the one thing that greatly improved the sound system was going to more of a digital core. That's what makes it now when I can have the wireless mics, we don't have to worry about muting them so much because it really cleans up everything here. But it contains the mixer function, it contains the equalizer function, and it also has additional controller boards that are connected by the switch to the DSP. And so that's where they have a special application. You can go out commercially and read about how they have the generic. It's not tied to the church, but how they have these controls that are part of the DSP. Okay, so I want to take you through input. aux4 output is connected to the DSP. It's on input 2.2, and here we're showing the output of the Spanish stream if we're presenting something that's going to be streamed, like a special meeting that the church wants us to be in on. It basically replaces the old satellite system. So there's channel 1, the stream input. Then we're going at aux4. Now, I mean, we'll be feeding the other auxes, but we're going to focus on aux4 particularly because it has some special magic it does. So because aux4 is connected to DSP 2.2 on the main system rack, that 2.2 was Spanish satellite. We don't do satellite anymore, so that's just a Spanish translation is what that is now. Which is what the Spanish satellite was. It was the same video, but just had a Spanish translation on it. So I've carried and preserved that feature on there, and so they'll find that controls the controls you see at the rostrum pedal, and I don't think we'll ever use that. They're technically the Spanish word could use it when they're doing from Spanish to English, and they could put it up there, but I don't think they'll do that. Okay, so we have controls in the Relief Society in the children's meeting room. So we could actually take the Spanish translation, put it over the overhead in those 2 rooms with just the video that we have in there, and they don't have to wear headphones. So there you see the output for it is a satellite there. Okay, so here you see all the mics. You see the lapel mic, the black wireless, the green mic, and also up here you can get a good view of um, Williams transmitter, and how it connects. These all sit up high because they sit up higher in this room here. They get really good reach out into the cultural hall or out into the chapel into the cultural hall because it's above all the bodies, and all the bodies are made of water, and that's what can kill the RF signal. Okay, so I want to try to show the connection here. Now you can finally see the orange mic. That's on channel 8 right there. If you can't see it, that comes up to here, and that's the transmitter. So it sits there. Um, right here, you see that isolation transformer. That basically comes from the master out. And the whole idea of that is we want to try to isolate, make sure we don't get any ground loops happening, and then that puts buzzes and all kinds of noise into the sound system. Um, so I always try to run it as I can through an so we make sure we can lift any kind of ground. So we're just coupling via what we call a transformer, and these are all what we call balanced outputs. So there you see the lapel mic. It's got a red tape there. If you look real close on there, I've got a little label that says black mic. Then finally, the green wireless is green, and then we got an orange tape for the orange wireless, and we got them all color coded. So when they're out running around with these wireless mics, there, you're up there looking at this, you know exactly who's got what mic. In case you need to turn up, if they're talking and someone is talking really soft, you have a little chance to turn it up. Or if they forget to mute a mic, if you think it's going to cause a little bit of problem, you can mute it. But generally, we don't have to mute this anymore like they had to in the first days of using this back when Brandon was the steak uh, specialist. Okay, so we'll kind of see. We're going to kind of look and see this. So there you can see the quarter-inch phone jack there. It comes down and around, and it goes. That's for the Spanish stream. It's coming in there, and that actually goes around. It actually goes there and goes down this bundle. We want to spend some time coming and clean this up some more. It goes down, tied up to this conduit. It goes down under the floor and out. And then we have a channel 2 input sound from the sound system, and that actually comes from there's a little fine headphone amplifier here. I think we showed you before. And most importantly, there's a network connection. That's how we talk to this thing. It's on 192.168.108.20. You put that into a web page, that IP address, and you will be able to talk to this thing and go through the screens that I gave you before. Okay, so then you can't see here, they're sitting behind, but then the last two channels, if you can just kind of picture what you saw in the previous slides, or is the high council room on input 3 and the I mean the rostrum on input. Yeah, the rostrum's on input 4, high council room 3, and the rostrum on 4. Okay, so there you can see that there is the chapel mix out. It comes out of this used to be the old webcast. I extend that over, and you can't see the cable here, but you can see it actually comes in. It goes into the input of this headphone amp. It sits on the side of the mixer. Okay, and it provides chapel sound from the headphone amp. English feed a little bit more here. So here we have input 1. This is the one that goes to the rostrum on that I showed you earlier. This just goes down this and down under the rostrum and comes up that. It's a 3/4 inch black pipe like you use serve for gas pipe that we just mounted a handy box on and painted it black. But it runs up that pipe, and that is the English monitor. So if someone is sitting wanting to translate for the Spanish word to go from Spanish to English, this is where they would actually be actually listening to the Spanish in that case, and going the opposite, doing just the reverse. Input 2 is the one that goes. This goes from here and hooks into channel 2 of the mixer, and that's where we get when we need to mix in uh, audio for the for like hymns and all that kind of stuff when they're not translating, so that the people who are listening to Spanish mix can hear what's going on. As far as the hymns, even though they probably be singing them in English, they can still hear or whatever. Okay, so now in the high council room, this actually sits on the other side of the wall from where the TV is. So if they ever need to turn on the high council conference PC, they have to go into the stake workroom and go flip it on. But so this is taking a channel B. This is output 2 out of the SHA4, which I got spelled right here. And that goes into the pink input, and that is the Realtek pink mic you'll see when you go to select the microphone for Zoom. So when you launch Zoom, this is where you want to select the mic you want to select is right here, because this is going to be the one that's going to have the Spanish mix. You'll probably, if the High Council, if the state presidency's been using it, they'll probably have the microphone on this eMeet 2 or this one. I think it's this one they mostly use right here. But you'll have to make sure you're selected on this. Okay, so this is showing the physical wiring of uh, the video. So that camera for Zoom is going to be an HDMI to USB video capture card here, and this big thick cable runs all the way around the perimeter of the stake workroom, and it comes here into the main audio visual rack, and it's got a little coupler there. This used to be where the webcast was. So since this is basically replacing the webcast, we have a barrel connector. I don't know, I guess you call it a coupler to go from mel to mel. So we take the old webcast and made it up to this cable, which comes around over to here. I have a better picture of this, but that seems to be good enough. So there you see the two different cameras. This HD webcam eMeet that sits on top. So that's what they would use when they're wanting to do a regular high council meeting. This is what we need to use for when we're sending a video out for the Zoom, because this is going to output. You do that and start the video, and it's going to be whatever we have put over the stake video system, which could be a bunch of different stuff. But that's going to be your video output going into Zoom. You have your Spanish mix coming over there, and then you've got the video. It doesn't have any audio on it, and we're putting the audio we want on there. Okay, now this is just showing a different video that we got going there. That's showing, I think, one of the Come Follow Me videos, I believe, in the background. But I just wanted to show there you can see the host. You can see that you bring up the host thing and see how many attendees are on there. This is the main host. You can click the next tab, and you can see exactly if you've got any people on there that are running. But one of the reasons you'd want to do this is if you want to record any of the state conferences, even if you didn't have any real attendees, you'd want to run Zoom just so you can get a good recording of the system if that's so desired. The High Council room Mike has actually got a couple of these terminals. There's one in the satellite cabinet. There's one here. They've got, and actually, I've actually uh, paralleled another one so I can test in there. But this is where there you can see the label, and using spade lugs here. They're crimped down really nice, and this is sitting on the side of the mixer. So that's the High Council room. That's what it looks like on the mixer side in the back room on the rostrum. Okay, so I'm going to do a final review of the Soundcraft functions and settings, and this is just mainly focusing on the Spanish translation. Okay, so in a quick review, we have to make sure that we have on the mixed gain side here that we have all of the Spanish translation inputs all slid down the sliders to infinity and are all muted, because we don't want any of that going over the sound system. That's the most important thing we need to remember there. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. We've not really covered this subject. This is really important to understand the gain function. If you're starting out with a new mixer, if you think you've got the slider up on either the aux sends or on the gain you normally have there, and you're not getting anything, you need to go in here, because this is one place where everything has to be turned up, the sum level. This is where you actually set the threshold on the gain, or like on the wireless example, we can set them here so that when you're running the slider, you're not going to get it up into the feedback area. You can kind of control that here. Okay, here's our review of aux1. Remember, that is a Spanish wireless transmitter. So that output was connected to the Williams Sound transmitter. And there you see that section there, and you can see the gain down there when it's selected. Okay, then channel B, this is really important. If we want anybody outside of the building to be able to hear the broadcast. This is really important that we have this. That's on the second channel B. And there you see our monitor for the headphone jack. It's sitting on the rostrum. And then finally, the cable that is connected there on the fourth headphone, or the fourth aux one, which is the headphone jack, goes back and goes into that DSP so we can get audio going into the auxiliary rooms that you see here.